Hi, we're going to make a nice ravioli lunch today.
I'm going to push this out the way a bit, and we're going to start with 240 grams of plain flour. Now, if you have pasta flour or a fine flour, you're welcome to use that, but otherwise plain flour will suffice for this recipe.
Julie's asked, please can you remind us about the recipe book and where to get it? It's George's birthday soon.
Yes. Okay, so if you would like the recipe book, I've had one somewhere. Where are they? They're loitering around. I think they might be under there. The recipe book is available on Amazon. If you type in lockdown baking, I'm sure it will come up. But it's a larger recipe book, so you can keep each recipe on one page. And you'll find you've got recipe and method on one side and photos on the other. And all your lovely photos are in there too. So there you go. Feel free, but they're on Amazon. You can buy it as an electronic copy. I think it's $7.99 for the electronic download, and if you want a paperback, it is $9.99. So I'll give that back to Mr. Beezy Bakers. But yes, you can order that straight from Amazon. And thank you very much for everyone that's ordered. Right, to our 240 grams of plain flour, we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt.
I'm going to jump in and say hi to Lorraine because it's their first time doing the online
Oh,
cooking.
yeah, so if you are, I normally say that, don't I? So if it's your first time, please do let us know. We have been holding these since the start of lockdown, but there are new people joining us all the time, and it's lovely to have you with us. Welcome. So that was 1.5 teaspoons of salt that I've added to the plain flour. I'm going to give that just a little stir in because we're going to add wet ingredients next. Right, to that we're going to add 3 eggs. Now I know that I've said, and I've tried to split it up on the ingredients list, there is a 4th egg just because we need some egg white for sticking the parcels together. So we're going to use 3 eggs for this. So three.
You will probably need to repeat again because a couple of people have said they've got frozen. Usual when people are coming on board, it's
okay, no problem.
Everything's fine on our end, so.
Okay, so your mixture so far is 240 grams of plain flour, and we've added 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 3 of the eggs. Love, could I have let's see, I've got one here actually, tea towel. There we go. Right. So we've got, I'll repeat it again, 240 grams of plain flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 3 eggs. Now I'm going to give that a bit of a stir in before we add the oil. So are we all doing okay? Hopefully I've kept you with it. Once you've learned to make this, now I've purposely, I know that I've got a pasta machine, a pasta maker that rolls it all out for me, but we've purposely done ravioli because you're not trying to create any pretty thin shapes or anything, and you can roll this out by hand. If you are using a pasta maker to roll the dough through, that's obviously no problem at all. And if you really enjoy making pasta today and you like making your own ravioli, I would definitely suggest putting a pasta maker on your Christmas list, because it's a great tool and perfect for making spaghetti and things like that too. Right, I'm not going to put that into a big ball of dough yet. I've kind of combined it enough that I think they can see. I'll put it up. I've got a loose dough. Before I go any further, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the mix. 1, 2. There we go. And now I'm going to give that a really big mix through because I want that to become a ball of dough. And that is your pasta. And whether you're making spaghetti or tagliatelle or pasta sheets for a lasagna, that is the mix. That's all you need to make your pasta. it's the what you do next to shape it and dry it and things. But that is the basic ingredients.
Can you run through what's gone into the bowl again?
I can.
And then I'll ask for thumbs up from everyone.
No problem. So Mr. Boozy Baker's looking after you all there. We have got, let's put this away. We've got 240 grams of flour. We put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt to that. Gave it a bit of a mix just to get that salt through the flour. And then we added 3 eggs. I gave it a mixed into a loose dough, and then we put 2 tablespoons of olive oil to bring it into a ball there. What I will do whilst you're doing that is just get a little bit of extra flour so I can put the ball of dough on the worktop. And I'm hoping, can you just make sure they can see that dough?
Must be that.
Thank you.
Move your glass forward.
My glass forwards.
No, too large.
Oh, ah, perfect. There we go. And I'll move this one out of the way a bit so you can see the dough. So we're going to knead this dough for about 5 minutes. So if you've done other workshops with us, like the olive bread, you'll know, and then we've done pizza making like this, you'll know that we knead. So we're going to just fold the dough like over and press it down. So fold it, press it down, fold it in half, press it down, and then we can speed that up. So we want to keep going. Don't worry if it's not quite folded in half. But
Mark says his is a bit wet still.
if yours is a bit wet, just simply put a little bit more flour with it. There's no problem at all. But you should have quite, I mean, it's not sticking to my hands, but it is a softer dough. Like, you can squidge it and it will really take, you know, your fingers will touch through it. It's quite a supple dough. So if you find that your the floured worktop that you've got, if it's sticking to the worktop, just put a little bit more flour. But as soon as it's not sticking, you should be able just to knead. Mine's starting to stick a little bit. I might put a bit more flour on that worktop. There we go. Just space that out a bit. I can always bring the flour into it, but it's not sitting on a heavy load of flour. If I space it out, then I can bring it to me when I need it. Mr. Busy Bakers, you're looking hypnotised by the kneading process. You're right there. I do find it quite therapeutic, actually. It's I like making pasta, and for Erin, I know the kids haven't been on the workshops for a while, but for Erin, she loves pasta so much, and I do like getting her to make it occasionally, just so that she makes something that she enjoys eating. She's a bit of a sweet tooth girl, so to get her to make this, and as I said, you could use this dough recipe and then make it into shapes. You could do all sorts of pasta from this, and then you can let it dry out and put it in a jar, or use it fresh. If you get a pasta, I wouldn't do spaghetti unless I had a pasta machine, but they're not too expensive if you were going to invest in one, but you kind of want to know that you're going to make it a few more times and not let it just sit in the cupboards. But I do she enjoys doing it. She's 9, and pushing dough through a machine is kind of like just one-off from Play-Doh, isn't it? So still working on this. You can see it's getting silkier. It's forming a nice smoother dough. So I'm just going to work on it a bit more. So I really want to make sure that we get a nice quality pasta. And then we will start on the filling as soon as we've got this kneaded. I'm sorry if this is building up a sweat, because I do appreciate it. It's a very warm day. I don't know where you are in the country. Please feel free to let us know what it's like where you are. But it's a little bit like the tropics out there today, where we are in Hampshire. And we've had the air conditioning unit on for most of the morning, but actually we've put the blind down on the window a bit just to stop that sunlight coming in, and it's bearable at the moment, but we've got no heat going on in the kitchen, which helps. I don't know if anyone's been seeing our page this week. I'm sorry for the lack of live chats. I've been doing a lot of novelty cakes, which have really taken a lot of concentration. So I'll be putting more. I've just done one today, and I'm waiting for the birthday girl to receive it, and then I'll be putting a cake on that I've made yesterday on, and I love making that. So if you like novelty cakes, do check out our page of what we've been up to recently.
Apparently it's grey, overcast and not warm in Cornwall.
What? In Cornwall? No. Oh, well, enjoy, because the weather, I do like a bit of sun, but this needs a storm to break it. So it's a bit more humid than I'm comfortable with.
And Sean's in Hersham, 33 degrees, was 36 yesterday.
It's a bit much, isn't it? Right. What do you reckon, guys? Have you all got a nice smooth dough? Tell me if it's looking like that, a nice smooth ball of dough now. If it is, we'll move on. If it's not, then we'll keep going.
Annette's saying hers is a bit yellower than yours. It
might be your eggs. Yeah, you might just have had yellower eggs. So really don't worry about that at all. Right. Once you have a nice soft dough in front of you, we're going to wrap that up in a bit of cling film, just to keep it soft and not dry out. And we're just going to let that just have a moment whilst we make the filling up. So I'm just going to wrap that up and leave it to one side. And I'm not going to actually clean too much of this flour away because we're going to be rolling out in a minute. So I'm just going to push it to one side. It's not too much of it. I dropped my tea towel because I'm a klutz. Could I have another tea towel, please? Thank you. Excellent. Lovely. Right. Right, your filling, if you're copying us vaguely, we've got 60 grams of goat's cheese, although a lot of people went, not sure on goat's cheese. If you're not, ricotta will do just as well. I've got 60 grams of cheddar cheese. Again, if you want to use an Italian hard cheese for this bit, you can. I actually found cheddar work really nicely, and then we tend to use a bit of the Italian cheese to pop on top of the ravioli when it's cooked. And then spinach. You can use fresh or you can use frozen. We've got a load of frozen spinach in the freezer, so I've got my frozen one ready. If you're using fresh, what I would advise you to do is put it into a bowl, get it obviously on a chopping board, get a knife and roughly chop it up, and then put it in a microwavable bowl for about a minute, 2 minutes at most, to wilt that down into a nice soft spinach. But you will want to roughly chop it first, so that you can get the smaller pieces for your ravioli parcels. But all we're going to do really is put those ingredients into a bowl and mix it up and season it. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to get my goat's cheese. Love goat's cheese personally. I'm going to get my cheddar cheese. And I'm going to get my spinach. There we go. And to that, I'm going to just season it with a good amount of salt and pepper.
Jennifer's asked, how much cheddar cheese did you use?
I use 60 of each cheese. 60 of cheddar, 60 of goat's cheese. I mean, it's unlike a lot of baking where you need to have the right proportions to achieve the right result. The filling is to your taste. So if you'd rather have just goat's cheese, do that. But I found this quantity makes the right amount for the filling. So just keep it roughly the same amount, and you can put whatever variety you would like in. I think Erin did mascarpone, cheddar and ricotta or something in hers, and devoured it.
Mozzarella, not mascarpone.
Not mascarpone, mozzarella, you're right. Yes, that's exactly what she did. So I'm just going to give mine a mix up. Right. So once you have your spinach, you should have kind of like a paste, if you can see that, of just like a gooey green, it sounds so lovely, doesn't it? But it's kind of cheesy green paste, which you should be able to spoon up and put as your filling. I think we should be ready to carry on. I'll go vaguely slowly still if you are still wilting spinach. I'm going to put a little bit more flour down to the worktop, and again I'm going to spread that out. So hopefully with the filling you're about there. When you're ready, put your filling to one side and then get your ball of pasta dough out, and you're going to want to get, if you're doing this in a pasta machine, or you've remembered that you were given a pasta machine and you've never used it before, with a pasta machine you start on like number, I think it's 9 is the widest, and you push it in, and you give it, you need to roll it out a little bit from this so it's a bit flatter, and you put it on the widest setting, and then you put it through again on a narrower setting, and then again on a narrower setting until you're at the thinnest setting, the narrowest. With a rolling pin, you're going to find it's a bit springy. It's going to come back on itself, so you'll do a load of work and then it'll bounce back a bit. It will eventually give in. So I'm going to go one way, and it's just keeping your rolling pin with floured just a little bit, and underneath the pasta floured. So if I were you, I would move it up, put a bit more flour behind underneath, and I've just rotated that, and I'm now going to roll out the other way. You do need to put some elbow grease into this because we do want it to be ever so thin. If you've got any cake makers out there that have used sugar paste, it's the same kind of idea. You do want it really quite thin before you use it. You don't want thick pasta, it's not very good. So this does take a while. Kids, if you're doing this, really put all your weight into it, and just really push it away from you. You don't need to worry about the shape because we're going to be cutting it out. So you're not achieving any particular type of shape. It doesn't matter if you've got extra long rather than a nice round or square edged. Just get it thin. Ooh. We got any questions coming in?
No, but Carol joined us a bit late, so she's going to watch later and have a go.
Yeah, no problem. So is there always available on Facebook, on our page, so you can always find it from that, and then we are getting them onto YouTube as well. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube, please do. And actually, if you're new to us, and you haven't seen any of our videos before, obviously on Facebook they get a bit lost between all the different things we've been doing, but you will find loads and loads of our videos on YouTube, from scones to cookies, lemon meringue pie, olive bread, soda bread, pizza making, quiche, carrot cake, ricotta pancakes. There's masses on there, and we'll keep putting some more on for you. So I've got some bits of this is thin, some bits are thicker. I can keep going. This is going to be so stretchy. Right, so I'm still working on this. It is thinner, but we do want it to be extra thin. So I'll keep pushing that out. Have a competition how thin we can get these. I'm just going to give myself a bit more space. So, I mean, I can see the shadow of my fingers underneath this now. I just want to make sure that it's very even all the way through. And it's not too floury. It's definitely, I think you definitely need to keep flouring it underneath just to make sure it doesn't stick. But I think we've got it to a point now that it's learnt who's boss and it's doing as it's told. There we go. It's kind of given up springing back now. It's pretty thin. It's not quite transparent, but almost. So that's where I've got to. So I can see the sunlight through that. I'm quite happy with how thin that is. So that's what you're looking to achieve. It's quite wide. If you don't have that much surface space, you can always cut part of it away, work with half of it, and then come back to the other half. But it does take quite a lot of elbow grease to get it to that. I mean, it is quite papery. I can just see a bit of a lump there. So you're looking for something which you can see the light through for sure, if that makes sense. You want it to glow from behind. It's got to be pretty thin. You can make shadow puppets on the other side and you'd see them.
And Sean's asked, can we chill the dough and use it in batches?
Yeah, absolutely. That's no problem. You don't need to use all these. You can make all your ravioli, fill them, and then you can freeze them. The only thing I would say is that this is it doesn't look sticky at the moment, but if you put it all on top of each other and leave it with that moisture in from the filling, they will stick together. So if you want to freeze this or chill it to use but prepared another day, just make sure that you've got like a bit of parchment paper between layers, or freeze them like on a wide baking tray, and once they're kind of flash frozen, then you'll be able to pop it into like a Ziploc bag or a Tupperware, and it won't matter, they won't freeze in the same way and stick together. Now if you don't have a cookie cutter, you can just do these as squares about 7 centimeters wide, or you could use the top of a glass. I quite like them round, but it's not a necessity. You can do them, just score it with a knife and make them into squares. It's no problem. So I've got a 7 centimeter cutter. If you want bigger or smaller, it's no problem. You just need to make sure that your filling follows how large how much filling for how big your ravioli is. So once you've got it, I'm going to cut out a piece. I don't know if I've got a bit of a smaller cutter here. And another piece. Didn't cut them out very well actually. There we go. There'll be a bit misshapen, those ones. I'll do a few more. Oh, they're really not. They're bouncing back. Sorry guys, I'm ignoring you for a minute. Having a moment with my ravioli. So yeah, keep cutting them. That's it. You can always shape them again afterwards, especially when you've got the filling over. You can really manipulate it with your fingers to go over the filling. There we go. I'm going to get my piece of pasta and I'm going to fill the middle with my ball, like a teaspoon of ravioli. And actually what I didn't do is Sorry? Oh, sorry, with my filling, my mixture. I'm just going to crack an egg, and I just want the egg white. I don't want the yolk. And I don't actually need that much. So I'm just going to put the rest of it in there. I just need a little bit of egg white. So if you can crack it, just put a little bit to use and leave the rest. You can always use that in another recipe another time. I'm just going to paint with a pastry brush the outside of my pasta, like so. And then I'm going to get another piece of the pasta dough and I'm going to press it on top and just shape it so it kind of matches up with the bottom ones, the sides of the bottom one, just roughly. And then A, because it's pretty, B, because it seals it, I'm going to crimp the sides with the back of a fork. So kids watching, this is actually really fun to do. So I'll pick it up carefully. So my parcel, I've got the filling inside, so I've got the pasta underneath. I've put a teaspoon of filling, so I've left enough room to put the egg white round, and then I've stretched over the top piece of pasta, and got it to stick with the egg white, and then crimped it. I'm going to put that on my baking paper just to get it out of the way. But if you have any questions, ask away. It's no problem at all. So if you wanted to cook these up soon, you might want to boil your kettle and get some hot water going, and you want to put some salt and season your water as well. Just a good pinch, quarter of a teaspoon, something like that, into your water, and just get that on the hob so that you can put your ravioli in when they're ready. Now, ravioli, when it's fresh, doesn't take that long to cook. Just six or so minutes, 6 to 8 minutes. When they're ready, they float up to the top. I tend to give them an extra minute or so before I take them out, and I drain them using a slatted spoon before I remove from the water. Right, so I've got my boiling water in front of me. That's had a bit of salt in there for some seasoning. Sorry for all the steam if you've got that. And then I've got a slatted spoon. And just so I don't burn my fingers, I'm just going to place my ravioli on the slatted spoon and drop it into the water. And I'm going to cook 6. And they will sink a little bit to begin with. 5. You know what, Mr. Beady Baker? You're a lucky man, because I can't count and I've made you 7. Right, there we go. All in. So I'm going to leave those whilst I'm making the rest, and then hopefully that means that I can show you the finished results. We're going to leave those for about 6 minutes. Right, I think, need to turn that down before I boil over. So I'm going to get my spoon and I'm just going to hang it over the top for a minute because in fact it's got a bit of froth there. I'm going to just place it over the top, let it just drain off a bit. 1. make sure it's drained. You could always use a tea towel to place them on, or a bit of kitchen towel just to drain them off a bit. 2. Oh, he's getting ready with his knife and fork.
Cut one open so people can see.
3. And just drain off that water. 4. And there. 5. There we go. Last one. Sure. Right. So there's the pasta, and then I would.
Move that to one side. So.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. I would drizzle with a little bit of olive oil. Like so. And I would grate a little bit of Italian hard cheese. Oh, I've got wilted spinach next to it. There we go. A little bit of Italian hard cheese going over that. And a bit of black pepper. Right, there we go, Mr. Boozy Baker. Right, we will leave you to this warm weekend, unless you're, of course, in Cornwall, and I'm very sorry you don't have the good weather there. But enjoy your ravioli, and we will see you next week. Thanks very much, guys.